Can you hear me? I moved to Rankin in 1994. And in a place, Iyagalik, there's an old sod house. When I first went there was a lot of grass growing in that area where the old sod house was. I tend to go there annually, and I started to notice where the sod houses are. All the flora and fauna is growing, and you cannot really recognize anymore that there was old sod houses on the land. And when it was just the grass, you could tend to see the outline of the Khamma. And now you cannot see because there are other growth now. Sorry, myself. Okay. And if you see the red ones, I tend to see them for the first time. And somebody once told me that they are not growing well. Some researchers, I asked one time when I brought the photographs, and I asked why I haven't seen that before with the growth. And it's because the plant isn't doing well. That's why that's the answer I was told. Have you seen that at all in your communities, where if you have seen that? And you can see why the red is sprouting, because there's something wrong with the plant. And so it coming from the soil. That's why, if there's a problem in the soil, then that's why these are growing. And this is the way it's supposed to look. And the red ones you saw earlier, and that's why they have that growth. It's because of the anomaly. It happens when the soil is not proper type of soil. And also on the land, I tend to love being out on the land, and I tend to take photographs of the, and you could see the
June 29
and you could see the heather growing on that one side. And around June, some of them tend to grow, and they start sprouting. The one on the right, and the other one though, when there's berries and when it's berry picking season, they tend to, they should have been changing. So there are berries underneath, as you can see, but for some reason, even in September, late fall, they still tend to be very much alive when they should start becoming dormant.
So June.
And when we look at June, I took a photograph. I'm not sure what the name are these in Inuktitut. They're not poundnate, they're not fireweed, and they tend to have a really nice smell. And they are a bumblebee flower. And firstly, they tend to grow first, like from the other species. And when we're out picking berries, even blueberries, I tended to notice that they have been growing a lot more in abundance. Does anybody know the name?
Aupilatunguangungimmi.
No, they're not aupalatunguangungin, not that word.
Aupilatunguaqauyimayakka.
I know that. I know what they are. These are the ones that have the nice smell.
Oh. Ilangi takuyariortuiyaqa.
I tend to see them for the first time where I've seen growth on the rocks. I haven't noticed the lichen where the red ones, where they tend to have the yellowiness. We know the yellow grows on the lichens, and that's quite common, but we've never really noticed the red growing around the lichen in the areas where I live. Maybe you have not seen that for the first time, but I've noticed that.
Timmeano? Hey, okay. Kuyanamik.
The audience said something about the birds.
Koyauti? Koyauti. Kuyanamik. Namukkeatu. Abvuqarsimallutattaa abvuqattaqattaa.
We go berry picking whenever we can. I noticed that the area we go often, there tends to be a lot of dead growth when I went to check further. Sometimes I've noticed that there's dead growth, and as you can see on the narrow area, you could see it. I didn't want to go there because I didn't go up closer because I didn't want to slip, but I took a photo from beyond a little bit further.
Yeah.
And that's the last one. This is what I've observed when we go out berry picking. Sometimes when we see for our own experience is how we can believe as a people. So thank you for this. I strongly believe that Inuit are capable, they have a lot of knowledge, and they can and should be able to stand on their feet and capable of doing many things. As you can see these photographs, there are different experiences that we can encounter. You have experienced those yourselves. I'm not just speaking about this and to say it for the fact of just merely saying it. I'm just saying that because I know that my husband and I have moved on the land a lot and have gone out. If we are able to use our knowledge, we are able to be out on the land. Even Bernadette mentioned that the berries that we tend to go collect, we know that is changing because the climate is changing. Its effect as women in Panartur. We have noticed that there tends to be smaller patches now that we have a problem with that. In the past there were more in abundance. We used to travel by dog team even when I was a young child. I was one of those people. We know that people traveled inland, and it's not necessarily traveling the same way as our ancestors did, but we are able to travel inland as well. And of course they would return once the season changes, but we can still be out on the land experiencing the same geography, but we do travel by snowmobile today. We go by boat in great speed. In the past, we went by kayak. I can recall a little bit. Some of our elders who are no longer with us, Pitsiula, would use the kayak. Our ice is changing, of course. It's very apparent. I'm just using our place as an example. We know our hunters and fishers are having problems because of the ice is not forming. And I know Simeone and Charlie could talk more about that, but we are very impacted by it, all of us, even whether we're women. And we know the ice is melting quicker, and it's not forming until really late in the season, and that has been a problem. I know I could say in the last 2 weeks, if I'm correct, it's just finally starting to form, so the fisher people can go out and check on their catch if they're able to. And we know that it's starting to melt, and we have we're in a very mountainous region, as you know. As you can see, the icebergs on the caps, they are starting to some of them have actually melted and are not there where they used to be. When I was working in the parks, and we tended to get stories that people told us about, experiences that people had, and so even as 3 meters a year it's melting. And in 2008, I'm just letting you know that our environment has changed, and this is what happened. Our river, it's between the community. It had backwashed underneath, and it actually affected the bridge. And below on the bottom, it has given away. So people had a hard time to travel. 2 of them actually broke. The other one actually got repaired, but then it had a problem again. There doesn't seem to be an excellent bridgeway at this point, but there is a problem in our community with the climate and how it's affecting even our bridges. Our children, I'm going to say that I tend to tell them stories about how to catch and how to collect eggs. Nowadays, and our culture, we're practicing our traditions, and our elders like to tell stories. And the young people, some of them are able to convey to tourists and other visitors about how Inuit used to live in the past, because the traditions are being passed on orally. And we are revitalizing our traditional stories and experiences, and tourism is on the rise in the last 30 years in Panutuk, and it's a vital part of that sector. And with as a people, as women particularly, we love to sew. And we like to skin and clean polar bear skins occasionally. We like to make kamiks. We try to make them traditionally, the kamiks in the old ways, but I know there's tendency to make new types of kamiks, because the caribou skins, for example, are not always available. The sealskin kamiks, they're now made like to copy the caribou skins, because the caribou skins are scarce. And also we tend to dislike as women are bearded sealskin soles that are available. They tend to have round problems in their soles, and so we're finding that they're affected by climate change, and sometimes when bearded seals are caught, they tend to have worn out skin on them, and they tend to have less strength in the skin. And so for men, we have been made by, well, the men makes the ulus, and that's a vital part of a woman's ability to make things. I've been asked to move along quicker, so I could say that men tend to go out on the top of the mountains quite a lot to check out on the weather. And in Panaktuk, last year, there was a pathway made for a ship. Well, I'm going to not talk about that. I'm going to say lastly, I'm not just a story. I'm not just a number. We are real people. We are living and breathing. For those that will make the policies, and I want to instill in your ideas to think about that Inuit traditional knowledge is something that has to be implemented within the government policies and programs, and not just to think about them in the back of your mind. It needs to come to the forefront, and especially within our environment. We will not move away from our environment. We will always be here. Thank you very much.